29 on the Fitzgerald, and it's immortalized, obviously, Gordon Lightfoot's song. The spooky thing is when spirits are one thing, man. You have a big loss of life. There's spirituality involved there. I still say that. So. Got something I got to show you. You got enough tape left in your gizmo?
Oh, we got tape. Tape, yeah.
Now this is one of my, I've got several prized possessions, and this is one of them. Do you know, my good man, what this is?
Well, it looks like a telephone receiver.
Elementary, Watson, elementary. April 5th, 1975. My dad's chief engineer, Edmund Fitzgerald. This is a sound-powered telephone. They want emergencies for the head end to the stern. Remember when we were kids, you took 2 tin cans with a string and you, hello, can you hear me? Remember that? That's the same thing. And when Dad was chief, they came on and they had to replace them. When they put the new ones in, they just put it in a box and threw the old ones in the trash can. And Dad knew as a ham radio operator, he knew I'd be interested in it, so he brought them home. McSorley himself talked on this. Think about this. You want to handle it?
Yeah. So this came from the Fitzgerald.
From the day she was made until April. What did I say?
Who did the captain on the Fitzgerald use this receiver to communicate with?
The engine room.
Okay.
You see?
So McSorley held this receiver.
Oh, absolutely. He talked into that.
That's interesting.
Isn't that something?
That's fresh from the Fitzgerald.
Yep, and it didn't require any electricity. It was just the sound of your voice would work.
Your voice would mechanically travel through a wire and dump out the other end.
They stopped using tin cans years ago.
That's really cool. So you got that from your dad.
Yeah, because they'd thrown them away, and he knew as a ham operator, he knew I'd be interested in this, not realizing that someday it would be what a historical artifact from the day that Fitzgerald was launched until, what did I say it was, April 5th, 1975, it sailed the Fitzgerald.
I am fascinated by Captain McSorley. I think that's already clear by the videos or movies I've made, searching in the footsteps of Captain McSorley. I even asked Captain Mike Capser about this in the parking lot at Tony Packo's. Do you remember what he sounded like? That was probably a weird question for him, and he really couldn't recollect, I think the captain is 92 years, whatever he is. He's still very sharp, don't get me wrong. But I've often wondered, I want to know what Captain McSorley sounded like. I mean, isn't there somewhere possibly we have a recording of his voice? And I'm not talking on an old, reel-to-reel tape from the family. The family's gone. I don't know, Coast Guard recordings from transmissions from ship to ship. Do those things, they just don't live anymore? I just wonder, is there somewhere where McSorley's voice is on tape?
Well,
probably not.
They've obviously got Bernie Cooper calling the Coast Guard. Hey, I know he's missing. I tell you, he's missing.
About.
Now, did they have like a 24-hour, like a surveillance video that they do? They keep it for? Could they back that up? Because it was Morgan Clark. I'm pretty sure it was him on the Anderson, the first mate of the Anderson. Called down, and McSorley answered. He says, "I want to talk to the captain." And he says, "This is the captain." Morgan Clark said it didn't even sound like McSorley. Could that have been the stress? Could that have been because he's been too many hours without sleep? Who knows? I don't know. He knew. Ain't a doubt in my mind.
He knew he was in trouble.
He was doomed. Had they not checked back, if they kept her going full tilt boogie, could they have made Whitefish Bay and grounded her, in the shallows somewhere and saved everybody? You got to wonder why he checked back, because what good's that going to do? You ain't going to launch no lifeboats in 25, 30-foot waves, 70-mile-an-hour winds. That ain't going to help. 29 on the Fitzgerald, and it's immortalized, obviously, Gordon Lightfoot's song. The spooky thing is when spirits are one thing, man. You have a big loss of life. There's spirituality involved there. I still say that. So you read the comments we get on there. People from all over the world. I mean, a lot of the kids, didn't know anything about it except the song, and then I got, this is amazing. Luckily, it only took the Fitzgerald. I mean, but the Anderson could have gone down just as easily. When Fred Shannon did his dive on the Fitzgerald, very good optics, up-to-date optics, and they did the stern. You could see punctures where the plating had been punched in. It wasn't through like a hole, but it had been dented. It doesn't happen just by no reason. You had to bump against something to have that happen, you know. Using side scan sonar, that's how they found the Regina. They find a lot of these that way. Isn't it strange that where the Edmund Fitzgerald lies, there is a law saying that you are not allowed to use side scan sonar? Now, I want to know why that is. It's a depth finder, is all it is. And, of course, it prints, you know, if there's a ship down there, so it prints it off. That's neither here nor there. We're talking about the storm of 1930, but the similarities here, the same basic spot, Whitefish Bay, Sault Ste. Marie.
Where the storm of 1913
where they came together.
Where they came together, where they clashed.
You know, the Fitz and the Anderson went up north to come there. Had they just gone around the Keweenaw, they'd have made it in before all that bad stuff hit, I think. Now, I wasn't there. I can only, you know, surmise. But that was a bad mistake go up there because now you get the three sisters coming. That's why there's so many ships have gone down in the area of Whitefish Point, Whitefish Bay, because it hits that Canadian shoreline and bounces back and creates humongous. When Bernie Cooper said his hatch cover crane was 6 feet underwater, you know, think about it. Here's the bow, here's the stern, and oh man! But luckily she was like a dog shaken off after a bath, you know.
Yeah.
She had reserve buoyancy. She had positive buoyancy. Fitzgerald didn't because she had her ballast tanks there were compromised. And what's the common denominator here, Don, on most of those shipwrecks? A lot of them had loss of life. And to this day, if you can find them, you can still dive on them. But you cannot dive on the Fitzgerald.
What we do know is that the Canadian government has, you know, designated the Fitzgerald as completely off limits. You can't lawfully dive on the Fitzgerald. Yet you can go look for the James Carruthers, you can go look for the Plymouth, you can go look for the Leafield. You can dive on these ships we know where the Isaac M. Scott is, the Argus and the Hydrus and the Henry B. Smith and the great ships of 1913. We know where they are, and you can go down on them.
One of the comments this guy keeps saying.
Why is that?
I don't know, but he says, this guy keeps saying, when are you going to do something on the Kamloops?
I read that.
And I thought, there's so many here right now, but that'll be for another day, I think. I think they're very, very interesting because not only is their body still in there, but you can swim in the engine room and old Whitey will follow you around. The body's in there. They don't stop that.
Right. There are photos of the body. They call it Whitey, old Whitey.
Whitey. Because the water is so cold, it's decomposed to a point, but it's real white looking skin. You know
so you can go down on the Kamloops, get inside the ship, paddle around in your little scuba suit, join Whitey, who's still down there.
They've got pictures of him.
I know, but who would have the courage to do that, knowing what you're going to see? I mean, I couldn't do that, could you? No, I don't have that.
Like I'd say, feet don't fail me now. I ain't going nowhere near that, buddy. But that ain't going to stop some people. You know, people that are shipwreck hunters, they see this stuff all the time. As I alluded to when Jacques Cousteau's, when they dove on it, they're the first ones to dive on it with actual physical eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? Not the remote control jobber do there. And I said this on the other thing, so if people have heard it, forgive me, but I'll repeat it. They're going alongside that ship, and they came to a porthole, and a light turned on from inside the ship. And he said, just had a heart attack. I mean, wait, if this is impossible until they realized.
It was actually a reflection, though?
Off the mirror in the bathroom, came right back at him.
Oh, my God.
Need to change underwear here, pal. Why are you not allowed to even go anywhere near the Edmund Fitzgerald? I don't know. You can dive on all those ships that you just mentioned that all had loss of life, but not the Fitzgerald.
You know, we have to ask the Canadian government. I think we may know some of the answers, whether you agree or not. There was a concerted effort among the surviving family members of the Edmund Fitzgerald, banded together, approached the government and said, look, stop. They're still on the ship. You know, leave it be as a memorial gravesite. And possibly that contributed to the decision as to not dive on the Fitz. I don't know.
I don't know. It's all speculation. I don't want to denigrate any family members or anything else. But all I know is nobody asked me what my opinion was at the time. They did ask my brother Tom what his opinion was. So which family members are you talking about? You know, they didn't ask everybody. No, they didn't.
I know that Bruce Lee Hudson, 22, he's one of the youngest to go down the Fitz. His mom was certainly forthright in her opinions to, look, just stay away from my son. Just leave the site alone. It's over. It's gone. There's nothing we can do. I think based out of the love she had for her son, she thought that was best. And there were other family members that came together for that. How many, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, no disrespect to anybody. It's just a question. All these other things are okay, but not there. You see, it just why add to the mystery of this? It's so deep, the average diver ain't going down there. You're going to need a multi-million-dollar ship and a submarine, that can go that deep, and you're talking megabucks to do something. That's the average guy ain't going to be able to do that. No way.
Yeah, it's not
But to tell me I can't take a boat and go over that site, I'll tell you what, I got one for you right now. Jim Byrne. You get old Jim Byrne.
Jim Byrne?
Remember Jim and Patty Byrne?
Oh, I do.
On the arowana boats. Mm-hmm. Patty was a school teacher, and she got her whole class to go and they made this little memorial thing. I think they all signed it, and they got Mike Capser, captain of the Columbia Star, to go over and stop right over the grave of the Edmund Fitzgerald. They got on video. I've seen Jim got the tape. I've seen the video, and they got a little service, and they dropped this thing right over the side, down to the Fitzgerald, in honor of the Fitzgerald by this, I don't know what grade she was teaching, 5th grade, 6th grade, whatever. But if I go take a cabin cruiser and I got my side scan sonar on, how are they going to know if I'm doing that or not? Unless maybe there's some kind of, do they have something down of a trip and alarm or something? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know how. But
I don't know either. Well, believe me, there's ways on that. They've got underwater lanes for the nuclear submarines, and they have listening posts because they can identify a nuclear submarine by its signature on the sonar, right? Fitzgerald's in 529 feet of water. It's a piece of cake for somebody. I don't know. History, mystery, man. We know the history of it, but we got the mystery, buddy. We still got the mystery.
We talked about the Edmund Fitzgerald, how it's known all over the world. But it depends on who you're talking to, too. Us older baby boomer types, yeah, we've heard of the Edmund Fitzgerald because the song traveled the world. But the song is no longer traveling the world. And if you ask a young person today who's, say, and I ask them all the time just because I'm curious, 25-year-old young man or young woman, you ever heard of the Edmund Fitzgerald? No. Occasionally I'll get one that says, oh yeah, that's a ship that sent, But most of the younger peeps, they do not know about the Edmund Fitzgerald unless they're watching, these movies or someone else's. It's just like, Pearl Harbor. We don't stop and pause for Pearl Harbor like we once did. 9/11, 9/11. That's going to start to go away over the years as we get farther and farther away from it. And the same is true of the Fitzgerald. It's known around the world, but for the young people today, not so much.
They don't teach history anymore. Next time you ask somebody that question of a young person, ask them this one. Who's Washington, D.C. named after?
What year was the War of 1812?
Who's the first president? Oh, gee, I don't know. Come on. There's a lot of bright kids out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not denigrating them all.
No, they can't know what they're not taught,
That's right.
It is important to teach history, and they're not teaching history or putting an importance on history like the way they once did. You ask a 19-year-old kid about the Civil War, ask them when the Civil War was, and I'm going to say more than a majority of them cannot tell you. And it's always been my belief that you cannot know where this country or where we're going without having some general understanding of where we came from and how we got here to begin with and all the pain and agony it took to get here along the way.
The blood that was shed. But there's a bunch of young kids coming up that are getting into the maritime thing, and they're being taught the right things here as far as how to stay alive on these lake freighters,
I didn't get those lessons, by the way, when I jumped on the James A. Hanna when I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school.
No, but OJT, right? I didn't know anything about shoveling coal in a lake freighter either. Here's what you do. Here's a shovel, start shoveling.
Yeah. I mean...
Then the Fitz went down, and I saw what it did to my dad. I don't know, maybe we better reevaluate this whole deal here, But I still went ferry boating all those years.
Sure,
Got 16 years in doing that, so that's 32 years of my life. And now I've got a nice house, and I sit back and I watch the birdies. I feed the birds and the squirrels, and that's... Yeah.
You got a horse, don't you?
Yeah, we're down to one. I had
down to
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
I still think about the industry a lot and still want to do it. I don't know that I can, but
why don't you go be a shipkeeper? They need shipkeepers all the time.
Nah, I'm too busy being the history mystery man.
I'm glad you are, because you're opening a lot of eyes to people that, you're teaching them the history of it. Like you said, what's the Edmund Fitzgerald? Well, I don't know what it is. Well, here's what it is, pal. If I'd have stayed on there, who knows, maybe I'd have been on the Fitzgerald when I went down there. I don't know. Fate.
Your
spots
dad
are
was the chief engineer on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
different. Yeah.
You said he died in 1980 what?
84.
1984? How old was he? Do you recollect?
He was born in 21. What's that, 63? He didn't quite make 64 years age.
So he died young.
Yeah.
I know he never fully recovered from the loss of his brother and his shipmates on the Fitzgerald. Would you say, in the end, he was a broken man because
I
of
would
it?
say that he died 9 years before his actual death. The Fitz, because he knew that boat had problems inside. You got, like I said, with the chief engineers, they know everything about these boats, mechanical into it. The captain and the mates do the navigation, and they do the loading and the unloading of the boat. But everything mechanical is the engineers in the back. And he knew those guys personally after World War II and seeing all that stuff.
Did he keep sailing after that? After the Fitzgerald went down?
The next year he sailed for about 2 or 3 months, and he just sat there. He had lost his love of doing it. He got away from it all. He's got a beer in his hand. He'd look at her, and he'd just shake his head no, because it was going through his mind. You know, I know what he was thinking. He should have said something.
Your brother, who I interviewed, he was a porter on the Edmund Fitzgerald. How old is he now?
He just hit 80.
He looks terrific, by the way.
It's that water and sycamore, trust me.
Look, your brother was a porter on the Edmund Fitzgerald as a very young man, and he's 80. So this is the clue that there are very few humans left on Earth that worked on the Edmund Fitzgerald. There are some, but finding them is certainly a challenge. But your brother, how old are you now?
75.
Okay, your brother is 80. You look good, by the way, for 75.
That's because I'm a dancer.
Not a very tiny dancer. I mean, you got the long years in your genes. Your brother's 80, so your dad died at 64. He had a lot more years left in him.
Yeah.
No doubt, but the Fitzgerald took him away.
I know that being with General Patton, Battle of the Bulge, Ardeen Forest, that was half the problem right there. But coming back from World War II, all them guys were World War II veterans, I'm telling you, in the 50s and 60s.
Can you imagine living through World War II, then a Great Lakes Maritime career as chief engineer that would eventually land you on the Edmund Fitzgerald? I mean, that was your dad's life.
Yeah. That was a pretty productive life, and he was a great provider. We always had a nice house. He'd buy a brand new car every 2 years and pay cash for it, for God's sakes. And we had decent clothes to wear, so there was no problem there. But he was gone so much. It was a lot of times we wouldn't see him from basically March until Christmas. That's why we moved from Sycamore up to Toledo, because he's on the Armco and the reserve. Every 5 days they're getting in port, so we got to see him. To watch that Fitzgerald come in every 5 days, I can see that just as plain as day. Him standing at the rail, waving in. Like I said, when he wasn't there and Tom was on a boat, we'd sit there about 12 and Mom would say, go up there and go, what are they waiting on? So I'd go up a ramp and up the ladder on the Fitzgerald. Tom was either in the galley or around there, or he's up forward doing something with the passengers. And if Dad wasn't in the chief's office or stateroom, then he's down in the engine room doing something. So I got to really...
You were all over that boat.
Oh, yeah. It was
As a kid.
Oh, man, it was a beautiful boat.
That's quite an adventure. Stepping up the gangway to the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Fitz came in there, it was fully loaded, so the ladder, you didn't have to go that far up, you know.
Sure.
These are memories that you got, and work experiences. You know, don't you ever be ashamed of being a tugboat captain. My God, that's
no, I'm proud of it. I'm going to hear it from some of the people who are tired of me talking about it, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, no, I'm proud of it. That's the thing I'm most proud of.
It ain't everybody can do what you did, especially.
I was 19.
Mackinac Bridge, breaking ice.
All winter. That's the thing. The Great Lakes shut down in the winter. We didn't.
Yeah.
So I was out there in January and February and March, and you know, the November gales are mean and nasty, but it's pretty serious business in February too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I happen to have an extra copy. I want to give you one. There it is.
What's that right up? Oh, that's awesome.
There you go, buddy.
Thank you so much. That's appreciated. Captain Dudley J. Paquette, captain on the Wilfred Sykes, who chose to anchor behind, what island was that?
Isle Royale.
Isle Royale. And as a result, lived through the storm that took down the Fitz.
It was the Fitzgerald, then next was the Anderson, then it was him on the Wilfred Sykes, and finally the Roger Blau.
Why is the Great Lakes maritime industry so fascinating, and why do we keep talking about it? Does it get old for you?
Well, I had
Or is
put
it
it on
therapy for you?
I had put it on the back burner for so many years because it's worked so much until I got a call from you and you wanted to interview a family member, and it's since reignited that passion for this, because I think back of all the experiences I had. And when the old man tells me the storm's so bad that when that stern comes up, you gotta, put it in neutral, deep, pull the throttle back, and then once that stern and the prop's back in the water, now you gotta give her that. I can't imagine doing that for hours on end. That's that sense of duty. It really is. And
So this series between me and you has reignited a passion about the Great Lakes maritime industry that you for many years tucked away.
Absolutely, because I was working so much. I'm retired, and other than taking care of the horse and mowing the grass, I got a nice 10-acre place.
I'm honored to be able to reignite your interest in the maritime
Yeah, I appreciate
industry.
that immensely.
Bring it back alive for you. As long as we're able, we'll keep on keeping on.
Well, we certainly got an unlimited supply of shipwrecks that we can always talk about.
I mean, well, we're going to run out because there's only 8,000 laying on the bottom of the Great Lakes. So we got 12 in today. Well, we better get busy, it sounds like.
By the time we get on that up, my beard will be down to here. It'll be like Rip Van Winkle, Hey, by the way, is it still rolling?
Still rolling.
I want to say thanks to everybody. Please, if you will, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. And I say thank you, and I will give you a tip with a sailor's cap.
Thanks for that. I appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Take her easy.